All right, welcome. Hey, everybody, how you doing out there? This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show, coming to you live today from FlintTalkRadio.com. We are here in the cold city of Flint. Man, it is Ash Wednesday, so get your ashes out, I guess. Everybody filled up on punchkis yesterday. It's a good time to be back here. How you doing, John?
Well, pretty good. You're Polish, right?
I am.
So was that a big thing in your family growing up? Because, I mean, just the past 10 years I've heard about the punchkis and all that stuff.
Punchkis.
Punchkis, yeah.
It was not a big deal. Dad got donuts. You know what I mean? That's what it meant to me as a kid. Like, oh, cool, we get donuts.
It's a great marketing thing. There's so many people who are not Polish now. You know, everybody's buying punchkis now.
Oh, yeah.
Punchkis. I mean, they're buying them. And I thought that was so weird out of the blue. It seemed like I heard about it when I was a kid because like my half brother's Polish.
Okay.
So I guess maybe his family did it, but you know.
Well, I was scared of them as a kid. I'm thinking because we go to family reunions and the aunts and uncles and grandmas, whatever, they would bring out all the Polish food, which as a kid I didn't really care for. I mean, it's a bunch of cooked cabbage and sausage and stuff like that, and I always thought it was kind of nasty. But then, you got to have a punchki. It's punchki day, and I'm thinking, well, what the heck is a punchki? It's probably some kind of egg salad, turnip crap. Well, no, man, it's a freaking jelly-filled donut. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? We've been celebrating punchki day every day. I'm like, how is it any different than a jelly-filled donut?
I think
it's got powdered sugar on it.
Well, the explanation is they make them overly decadent because they want to rid their pantries of sugars, candies, jellies, jams, whatever they got, because during the period of Lent you're supposed to forego all that stuff. So that they're supposed to be more elaborate and more luxurious or more decadent.
Well, I think it's just the fact now that our donuts nowadays. I mean, if you went back 20 years ago, if you got donuts with sprinkles on it, it was a big deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? Frosting and sprinkles, and now you got donuts that look like wedding cakes. So what are you gonna do?
Yep.
Like, oh, look at this little punchki. There's nothing to it.
Yeah, it's like some of the places I've had
them. It's the frosting.
It's mostly frosting. It's almost like sickening sweet. Many of them are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think you could go into a diabetic coma eating one of them things. I'm serious.
Some do. So, anyways, though, hope you guys enjoyed your punchkis and Ash Wednesday, all that for you folks out there that are Catholic. I know we've got Lent coming up here, and speaking of Lent, what is it? No meat on Fridays, I believe, is the deal.
Yeah.
No red meat.
Yeah, for years I was like, for the longest time, that was supposed to be every Friday. You're supposed to eat fish on Fridays. That's the reason why everybody had fish and chips. And then after one council, they decided, we don't have to be so observant, and they kind of left that too. But yeah, but every Friday the Catholics were supposed to.
Oh, every Friday.
It was every Friday. Yeah,
not just during Lent.
In Lent, they want you to avoid red meat the entire 40-some day period.
Oh.
Yeah. So they got. I mean, I guess.
So where's the Fish Friday come in then?
Would
you be eating fish every day if you couldn't eat any?
Well, they said, I don't know where the custom came from because I certainly don't find it scripturally based. But I mean, there was Fridays they had they would avoid meat and they would eat fish. I mean, that's like you go to like bars, restaurants. Still, I mean, they have unlimited fish and chips on Friday.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they emphasize it stronger during the time of Lent, and then some Protestant denominations now embrace like the idea of Lent and have special meals and stuff, which is, I don't know if it's either here and there about salvation, but still they just seem to kind of ironically going. Some of the groups that actually more vehemently oppose the Catholic Church are now embracing the idea of Lent more than they would have been in the past.
I mean, I certainly understand the sentiment behind it. You're giving something up as in gratitude of the gift of salvation.
Right.
That's the thing behind Lent.
Right. It's supposed to be discipline. It's supposed to discipline you, and
Oh, okay.
Yeah, give you discipline. Kind of rein in your own tendencies to be overindulgent.
Right on.
Yeah.
So we start that up with good strong punchki.
Right. You start that off. You give that up. It's like the last hoorah for 40-some days.
Oh, there you go.
So they don't require you to give it up fully. Just
all right.
For a period.
I'm not Catholic. I can't speak to a whole lot of that. I can certainly have respect for the traditions of that. More power to you. But at any rate, we're going to be serving up some fish this Friday in honor of that at the soup kitchen. So, hey, what about that? I mean, we're even helping the less fortunate out there observe. So this is going to be cool. We're doing the fish fry down at the North End Soup Kitchen. That's this Friday, March 7th. And we'll start serving at 4 p.m. When the doors open, we prepare and go down there at 2 o'clock. So if you can join us, we'd definitely appreciate it. Also, if you're in the club, stop by the front corner booth there. Actually, I guess it's back corner. Over at Greg Joslin's booth, he's got a big, huge jar container of M&Ms, and for $1 donation, you can guess the number of M&Ms in the jar. If you get it right, you get a whole slew of prizes, and the money collected is going to go to the soup kitchen to help fund things there. But hey, you also get a huge container of M&Ms if you win, a G3C hockey jersey from our most awesome hockey team, and a couple other goodies as well. I think there's some cookies jars. And
You guys have a hockey team?
well, we sponsored a hockey team.
I didn't know that.
Heck yeah, the G3C Puckers.
Oh, the Puckers.
That's right, the Puckers. So we've got a jerseys that we had made for the team, and we've got an extra one of those for our winner. So if you can, stop by over there, donate $1, guess the number of M&Ms, get your ticket, and then of course we'll let you know here if you win. But
if you had somebody with a bad speech and put him at that public public relations,
it's a test. It's a test to see if you're drunk.
It could turn out to disaster. No, that's not bad. It's Puckers. P, not the other letter.
Well, and that way when we score a goal, we know the other teams out there going, the Puckers. Those mother Puckers.
Mother Puckers.
Yeah. But that's awesome. This Friday, Soup Kitchen, definitely thank you to all the volunteers for making it happen. And also, it's just an honor to be able to help out in the community. And we're looking forward to it. So we'll be frying up the fish on Friday. And also, if you serve, you get to eat. How awesome is that? Get to eat.
That's not. I might actually show up for that because that's just down the road from my house.
You should show up, John.
Yeah, it's like if the fish.
It's
chips,
free. It's a soup kitchen.
Yeah, it's like I can.
You can come and serve if you want it.
Well, I wouldn't mind that, but I mean, I got probably neighbors that probably people around here that I know probably go there.
Oh well, certainly. Yeah, you're in the area.
Yeah, so it's within about a mile of here, so.
Not too far at all.
No.
Right over there on Stewart.
Yeah, it's about a mile and a half maybe. But
Yeah.
it's not that far then.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome. A wonderful time there, and the staff there is fantastic. But they let us go in there and tear up their kitchen, make our own food, and then turn around and serve it, which we're grateful for. And it's definitely always a blast. Thanks a lot to Matt for always being the chef. He is the monster master chef in the kitchen back there, and he makes it happen. Slaps us around and tells us what to do.
Well, last spring when you guys got that award from the
Golden Bowl.
Yeah, the Golden Bowl. You could definitely tell when he gave the introduction. The MC of ceremonies there. I mean,
that was John, the master of Soup Kitchen.
Yeah, he was very appreciative of your donations, your contributions.
Hey, our members really make it happen. I know if it wasn't for them, we couldn't do it, and it's just a privilege to be able to help out and to be able to serve the community. So we're glad to be there for them, and it's a lot of fun too. So if you can make it, we definitely would love to have you there. And, man, I'm looking forward to some tasty fried fish. That's for sure. Also, give a shout out. We were talking about the Puckers. I'm going to give out a shout to the Little Lebowskis, the Urban Achievers. That's the G3C bowling team there. We're not really sponsoring the team or anything, but it's a lot of our G3C members, staff, that are kicking butt down at the bowling alley. I know they got a game tonight, so we're wishing them luck. We hope you guys destroy the competition and show them what the Lebowski magic is all about. I know you guys go in there reeking for a cause. So show them what's up as you guys get down. But hey, that's awesome. I'm excited about the bowling team. You guys
In the 40s and 50s and 60s, well, through the 60s when I was growing up, bowling banquets are huge. People have all these leagues they played on, and at the end of the year, they had a wrap-up party, and they had all these bowling banquets, and people were giving awards.
Yeah.
Man, they used to be huge. I mean, and they were considered
there's 48 teams.
That's pretty good
in this bowling league.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
that's huge. 48 teams. I'm like, how do you get them all to bowl? It must, take all night to get them all in.
But it's like, well, some people just love that. I had one woman I dated for a while. She was almost like a professional bowler.
Hey, people take their bowling seriously.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, it was a huge thing.
There's not a lot to do around here in the wintertime.
No.
So.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Not everybody can roller skate.
Right. Well, without a severe injury.
Right. If they'd only hand out helmets, elbow pads, knee pads.
And butt pads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, big pillows.
It'd be a lot safer. But, yeah, the bowling team, they rock. The Urban Achievers. Go, guys. Love the shirts. Hey, what else we got going on here in the world of medical marijuana? There's a lot of stuff that's happening around the U.S., so I'm going to share some of that with you today. And before we get into that, we'll talk about our own little humble state of Michigan. There was a bill that was passed this last week in the Senate. It's not law yet, so don't get your panties in a bunch. There's still time to work on this as it moves through the House side of our legislature. But this is the bill we've talked about before in the program, and it is, I try to remember the number here, Senate Bill 783, if I'm not mistaken. And that bill is the one that's going to be restricting folks who may potentially have an issue with their landlord. And this would be allowing landlords to prohibit the use of medical marijuana in their properties if they should deem so necessary. So this bill here, like I said, it already passed through the Senate. It's kind of fast-tracked through. It was in committee just a couple weeks ago, and it's already been passed through the Senate side and now has yet to be voted on in the House. So there's still time to act on this. You can contact your House representative. There's 5 different ones here in the county, so make sure you're calling the correct one if you do want to give your input. But again, this bill here would prohibit people, if the landlord chooses, from being able to use their medical marijuana inside of that rented property. So it gives the landlord the ability to say no to medical marijuana if they want to. And, currently right now, if they have that right, it's sort of debatable. So this would sort of seal up that issue for landlords. And, it does pose some potential risk to landlords, if you have smoking in the home or something like that. So there's some people on the certain side of the argument that would agree and say this is a good bill. And of course, then there's the other side of the argument, which is, well, what are patients supposed to do? They've got a recommendation from their physician. They need to use this medication, and now they're not being allowed to. So, I think that there's certain ways that the drug can obviously be administered and ingested without being, having an effect on the property. I mean, smoking is not the only way to ingest medical marijuana, as most of you are well aware of. And, if you're simply eating a piece of candy or maybe you're taking some tincture, these are less invasive ways that the medicine can be administered, something that wouldn't harm your landlord. And maybe those could be options that, could possibly be discussed if your landlord does have any concerns. Like I said, this isn't law yet. We'll have to see if it becomes law. Part of the other bill that, of the same law here that is a part of this is also a certain section in there that prohibits the use of medical marijuana on private property if it is in sight of other people. So this would be for folks that, say you're medicating on your front porch and the neighbor across the street can see you. This would prohibit you from doing that. So it is another prohibitive section being placed in the bill, another infringement on medical marijuana patients that is a part of this as well, something that I don't know if is necessarily a good thing. I mean, it seems kind of invasive to people's rights. I can understand concerns, but, hey, just because you can see someone, maybe they're smoking or vaporizing over on their property, I don't think that should give you the right to say, hey, you don't get to do that anymore. I don't want to see that around here.
Well, I guess if you want to extend that out further with the pharmaceutical drugs that people get prescribed, if you pull into a parking spot next to somebody already parked and you see them go up and down their Vicodins or their nerve medicine or whatever, you should be able to get them prosecuted too, right? I mean,
there isn't any type of exception here for other types of medications, John, like you're saying, and that's a good point. I mean, if you see other people taking pills, prescriptions, how is that supposed to be offensive to you? Screw you. I mean, it has nothing to do with you. It doesn't harm you. And I don't think seeing somebody on their property using medical marijuana is any different. So to me, this is completely unnecessary. I don't think this part of the bill should exist. However, it does exist, and it's already been passed in the Senate. So hopefully this is something that could get struck down in the House. I think it's just crazy. I guess, somebody could say, well, so-and-so was smoking marijuana, in their backyard, and we were all out there, it was summertime, we were grilling, and we could just smell that pot, and it just, oh gosh, it's so nasty, it's just nauseous. I mean, you'd have thought a skunk just crawled up here, a whole herd of skunks crawled up in the backyard and died. I mean, what are we going to do? The sky is falling. That's just ridiculous. But apparently some of our senators think that is the case, and that they need to protect those people.
Offhand, who would since it's going to be in the House's hands, is who are the reps that they should contact to avoid this being passed?
Well, you got there's like I said, there's 5 different representatives in the House just in Genesee County, and of course Genesee County Compassion Club. We've got members from all over the state. So the best thing to do if you're wondering who your House representative is, real simple. Go to MichiganLegislature.gov and you can look it up. You can also go to the House of Representatives page, look it up there. There's a number of different ways you can find out who your state representative is. And, you're going to need to look up their phone number anyways. And, all it takes is a simple phone call. A lot of times you're not going to be talking to the actual representative, so there's no reason to get all nervous or anything. You can just call up there, leave a voicemail, maybe talk to one of the aides. And you don't have to have, the bill in front of you or anything. You can just simply call up and say, hey, I heard there's a medical marijuana bill that might be coming down the pike, for a vote. And I just want to let you know I'm opposed to it. I don't like it. And for what it's worth, if you could relay my sentiment to my representative, I'd appreciate it. And that's pretty much all you have to say. You don't have to really give a founding reason behind your feelings. The important thing is that your feelings are heard, that they're made known, and that hopefully they can be represented when it comes time to vote. But it's up to you. You guys can formulate your own opinions on this. I mean, if you really feel that people should not have the ability to medicate in visible areas of their own private property, well then, hey, that's your God-given American right. However, if you feel that you should be able to do what you want to do when it's not hurting somebody else, that's your right as well. So call them up, let them know how you feel. Hopefully we can put the kibosh on this bill. Right now, it's, like I said, that's Senate Bill 783. And I don't know, I think it's overstepping its bounds, to say the least. It's just preposterous to me. It seems like they just keep coming up with more and more ways to try to narrow down the protections that were afforded in our original medical marijuana bill. Any way possible, they just seem to want to chop it up.
Well, do you notice when people talk about having more limited government and then talk about maybe they should just be convening like both the the one on the federal level as well as the state levels, they should just the legislators should be only there part-time. Well, they're balking at that because I think they're trying to react against that, saying, oh no, we're busy, we're always busy, we're always trying to pass laws on you, and look what we're doing now. I mean, stuff that's asinine and not even needed.
Yeah.
They're pulling it off somewhere, some crevice.
And we've got kind of an ironic nature going on here in society, because on one hand, I think a lot of people out there would resonate with what you're saying, John, and agree that, hey, we need less government involvement. We don't need to have thousands of people out there, which we literally have between, our House, our local, and our federal authorities making laws all the time. We don't need that. A lot of people feel that way. And on the other hand, in common conversation on a daily basis, you'll hear people say, well, there should be a law against that. Oh, that's ridiculous. We should pass a law against that. So, on one hand, we're sitting here saying we don't need government intervention. And on the other hand, a lot of times we're saying that we should have it. So it's kind of an ironic thing going on there. I think we have to watch what we say, really think about what it is that we want to have, and in the way that we deal with society and the way that we conduct ourselves. And maybe put that to practice, where we say, well, instead of having a law against this or that, maybe we should just not do that.
Well,
maybe we should exercise self-restraint.
Maybe as our population increases too, it's an absurd thing. The number in Congress, the number in the House is like set. On the federal level, it's set due to population. Basically, you lose or gain. Members, represented in the House. Yeah. So I have a friend who actually put for, I don't know where he got it from, but maybe we should have more representatives. Now think about it. We have more representatives, but the same amount of senators. There actually will be more of a reflection of what's going on in society. Because let's face it, the people who are like the vested interest, if they go out there and try to buy these people, they're going to have to divvy up their monies more because they're going to have to buy more people off, and that might not be just as effective. There actually could be a true reflection of the people's will rather than these special interest groups.
I hear what you're saying, but it seems like to me that would be kind of a lofty sort of hope. I mean, it's no doubt that the majority of our politicians are motivated by special interest because that's where the money comes from. And, when we talk about having voter influence, a lot of times the influence doesn't come from the voter. It comes from these key special interest groups that have the money to back these politicians when the campaign time comes around.
Right.
I mean, on an individual basis, how much could you possibly expect from one person as a politician? Well, not very much. In fact, there's government limits how much an individual can give to a politician, but it doesn't limit how much a corporation can give.
Right.
So the system's kind of set up to sort of go against that type of ideology.
But I actually think that you got more people snarl. I mean, I love it politicians at each other's throats. I want them to rip the hell out of each other. I mean, the more of them are the few. I mean, when they're doing that, they're not screwing us over. When they're actually contentious with each other, and but I love it. I love stalemates. I mean, because, and like P.J. O'Rourke makes the comparison, they say, they're not passing anything, they're not working together. He said it's basically, gridlock's a good thing. It's like having bars between your child and a mauling bear. You want those bars to be there,
Gridlock, it's sort of like moderation, for protection, I guess. So, anyways, I mean, that's, regardless, that is the bill for 783. You guys make your own judgments on that. If you want to read the bill's language, you can do so. It's on michiganlegislature.gov. You just go into the key bill search section, type 783, and pull it up, and you can see the bill as it's been passed by the Senate, and read in there for yourself. Like I said, the two major things in there really are the limiting of someone being able to medicate on their private property if it is in view of someone else outside of that property, and then also the landlord prohibition, so that landlords can prohibit people from using medical marijuana on their own property. So check that out. The other bill that potentially might gain some steam here, this is known to many of us as the edibles bill. It's House Bill 5104, I do believe. Let me pull this up here just to be sure. But this is the bill that would potentially sort of define what an edible is when it comes to medical marijuana. It's House Bill 5104. Just make sure I get that number right. But it looks like it might potentially have some support in the Senate. I know this is one of the bills that Senator Richardsville said he was going to sit on a couple weeks ago, said he wasn't going to be doing anything with that bill. Now it looks like it might have some support and may be gaining some steam. Again, this is in the Senate. It's already passed on the House side, so sort of the reverse of what the other bill was that we were just talking about. But this is House Bill 5104, and like I said, it does define what an edible is, other things like tinctures and other forms of marijuana to be used as a medical purpose. And currently right now with the Caruthers Supreme Court case, it leaves things up to debate as to what is protected underneath the medical marijuana law, what types of forms of medication are actually protected for in that. And this bill would seal that up. It would say, yes, these are forms of medical marijuana, such as edibles, tinctures, oils, and so forth, and that they would, in fact, definitely be protected by the Medical Marijuana Act. And currently, right now, like I said, that is debatable based on the Supreme Court decision. Whether or not it's going to be under Section 8 certainly isn't going to be considered protected under Section 4, as the Supreme Court case had decided. But, this is something that I think should be passed. This is a good bill. It's gaining support in the Senate. It's being backed by a couple different lobbyist groups and, of course, by a number of medical marijuana patients and caregivers included. Again, 5104. Check that bill out. It is, like I said, the language there would provide protection for edibles and other forms of medical marijuana. And I think this is something that we should have, something that should be already included. I think it, by nature, is included in the current act, but this would specifically draw that out and allow for the protections that should already be afforded. So if you can, include that in your phone calls. Again, that would be to your Senate, not to your House representative, and that would be somebody different. You can, again, look up your senator on the Michigan Senate page. So pretty simple there. All right, hey, I've got some news for you from around the country. Seems that marijuana legislation is gaining steam all over the place, whether it be for legalization, decriminalization, or medical. It seems that a lot of states are starting to get the wheels rolling here for 2014. So let me get started here. One of the first things I noticed was, and we've already talked about this state, Florida. Florida does have a medical marijuana bill that will be on the ballot for voters this year. So in November, Florida voters will put that to a vote and decide whether medical marijuana should be included or not. Now, another bill that was just recently introduced in Florida was a bill for the recreational purposes of marijuana. So kind of interesting that that's being introduced through the legislation, but the medical marijuana was done as a ballot initiative. At any rate, it's been introduced. Whether or not it actually gains steam for passage is another story. Also, talking about Florida, there was another philanthropist, rather wealthy individual, who also made a significant contribution to the medical marijuana ballot measure. And I think that's a good thing. So you're seeing some well-backed people step in here and help support the cause, which that is definitely what's needed in order to get anything done when it comes to getting votes. It's kind of interesting. So kind of going good down there in Florida. Maybe the people down south get some relief. Another state down south, Oklahoma, looks like they've got a bill that's moving through their legislature. It's sort of restrictive. It's for CBD-based medicines. Specifically, it's not just medical marijuana in general. It's kind of interesting. In the news, it's being touted as for CBD products. But if you go and actually read the bill actually is talking about licensing their own departments to do further research and potentially set up licensing for production and distribution through their own state. So kind of interesting there. Will it gain any steam? Who knows? One of the things I read before actually digging deeper was they were talking about licensing the strain. It's a high CBD strain known as Charlotte's Web. It's gained some popularity on the internet and in the news media. It's been sort of touted as the strain for children, if you will, to help fight seizures, epilepsy, other things that are related to seizures. At any rate, kind of interesting to me, if you look at the actual strain, Charlotte's Web, you'll see that it doesn't contain just CBD, of course. It contains other types of cannabinoids, which is a no-brainer to those of us that are in medical marijuana. But it wasn't that they were, the news is sort of promoting that this bill was going to license just this strain, and that is definitely not the case. They're actually looking at licensing their own departments to do further research and then potentially set up distribution through their own centers. And again, that's down in Oklahoma. Another bill that was introduced in Oklahoma recently was one by one of their legislators, and this was to potentially decriminalize small possession amounts of marijuana. Currently, right now, penalties are quite stiff down in Oklahoma for marijuana possession. You could receive up to 1 year in prison just for per 1 gram. So that's pretty stiff. Can you imagine that? You have just a joint going to prison for a year for a joint. Well, Oklahoma is not a good place to be in, so they definitely need to have some laws changed down there. We'll see what happens. Until then, stay out of Oklahoma. Let's see, what else we got going on here? There's let me pull up here. If you go to mpp.org, this is Marijuana Policy Project. They've got a pretty good website there. It has quite a few of the different laws from around the country. You can go in and read the detail to them. But it also has a nice news feed, keep you updated on what's going on. And they're quite influential in getting a lot of the different laws passed around the country. Good organization. But at any rate, if you go check that website out, which I'm doing right now, just waiting for the internet. You got a number of different stories featured. And one of the ones is about another sort of backwoods state, if you will. Of course, people from that state would probably be offended, but too bad anyways. This is Kentucky, medical marijuana bill. That was approved by their House committee. And this bill here, check the details on this. This is House Bill 350. It was voted in favor, called the Cannabis Compassion Act. It's the first time a Kentucky legislature committee has ever voted to approve an effective medical marijuana bill. And basically it has a list of debilitating conditions like AIDS, cancer, MS, and so forth. And it would allow patients to possess up to 3 ounces at a time and grow up to 12 plants per patient. So sounds kind of similar to our program here in Michigan. It would also establish safety compliance facilities and permit 1 medical marijuana compassion center for every 100,000 residents to ensure safe and reliable access for patients. So it sounds like a pretty good bill down there in Kentucky that they're working on. It still has to go through their House. It's just passed out of committee. And who knows? Maybe Kentucky would get something going. This is going through their legislature. It's not a ballot initiative where the people actually get to vote themselves, but you get to vote through your state elected officials.
Okay, you've seen this as you've been doing the show for, 4 years now. You've seen a lot of states adopt similar things for medical marijuana. And definitely in defiance of the federal law as it stands now. Do you think it actually has a kind of like the death by 1,000 cuts, though, for each state to, pass this kind of legislation?
You mean in regards to the federal?
Yeah. Do you think it's going to have like an effect, an impact, significant maybe they could get to reclass or maybe to decriminalize or legalize it?
It certainly is the hope, John.
Yeah.
Who knows if it will, when it will. I think at some point it's going to have to. I don't see how you could have the majority of the states in the union have, medical marijuana being recognized through law, and yet we still federally say it has no medical value. It just seems to be, it is dumb. For a lack of a better word. Currently right now you have the majority by population. If you look at the population in the states that already have medical marijuana, that is greater than 50%.
Right.
So in the fact that we have 22, 23 different states with medical marijuana provisions, and we still don't have that change. You could say the same thing today,
right?
Even without having the majority of the states. I think that's just another milestone that people are looking to eventually say, well, hey, the majority of the states in the United States have medical marijuana. And I think that when that milestone's reached, will the federal government suddenly open their eyes? I don't know.
The sheer it's just basically, I hate to say it this way because I'm picking on. I don't mind picking on, but everybody else hates me saying it. But it's the sheer arrogance of politicians. No, we know better than you. We're not going to listen to you. We know better. What input do you know? What information you have that it's any different, vastly different than what we're operating with?
Well,
I like to know that.
You bring up a point, but it's not really the politicians per se. They're the ones who aren't doing anything.
It's their fault.
You can really lay the blame right on the president. It's his ability to change the Controlled Substances Act. That was not an act by Congress. That was an act by President Nixon.
Right.
So consequently, the president is the one who should be, addressing that issue. And the other thing is that we seem to be getting the majority of the pushback from the DEA. So these are the people that the majority of their bust are related around marijuana, and it seems to be they're the ones who continually come out and say no. There's no medical use for this. It's a harmful drug. And it seems funny to me that a department of the government, which is supposed to be run by the government, is telling the government, no, you shouldn't do this. That's like, it's like having the employee tell the boss what to do. And in this case, that's exactly what seems to be happening.
Well, it's because they said it's their bread and butter is made by harassing people, being able to pop at people and grab their property. They love that stuff. It seems like law enforcement gets off on it, for lack of a better term, they get off on it.
Well, I think it is, just by the sheer numbers, it is obviously the major bulk of their resources, where their resources are spent and where they're coming from. But at any rate, there's no question that you could reallocate those resources towards fighting other types of crime out there. There's certainly an abundance of crime, and if we would allocate our resources to more fruitful sort of expeditions, going after maybe like internet crime or maybe human trafficking, things that have certain harmful consequences to the individuals involved and to the individuals around those areas. I think that would be better spent. And we certainly have a limited amount of resources.
The thing is, I don't understand these politicians regale us with the personal story, like Obama did in his own his biography about him smoking dope and doing harder drugs like cocaine. He's admitting to breaking the federal law. Why doesn't he be held accountable for his actions? All these people just
because he's president.
Yeah, but all these people go and talk about it. It's like, well, then you're admitting to breaking the law that you're saying we got to maintain, but you're not justifying your own actions by doing this. And to me, they're admitting to being criminals. By the way the law is written now, and by they're advocating maintaining it, they're criminals. They should be put in prison for their actions. They're trying to put everybody else in prison for those kind of actions. So they're basically thumbing their nose at everybody. I got away with it. I think they're.
It's hypocritical to
they're
say
jerks.
the least.
You know.
Well, I think the pressure is mounting. I mean, you're seeing more coverage about marijuana in major mainstream media constantly. So, maybe we will see change here. But, currently, I don't know. Maybe the door's kind of creaking open. We'll see. But at any rate, next state, moving on here, let's talk about Vermont for a minute. Vermont has a medical marijuana program. They have had one since 2004. There's a number of issues that are going on up there, but right now it seems that patients need to have more access. So they are currently urging in the legislature there to eliminate a 1,000 patient cap. So it seems like right now they have a cap on how many patients can be in the program. They're looking to eliminate that and then also potentially license an additional 2 dispensaries. And so they're continuing to modify their program in Vermont. It seems like they're modifying them for the positive, so that's kind of cool. But at any rate, that's what's going on in Vermont. So, besides maple syrup, right? Do the big maple syrup place? All right, next thing, D.C., Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. They have passed a bill down there to decriminalize marijuana possession. So this would, it's a form of legalization, some might say, but this would be for people, anyone who's carrying up to 1 ounce of marijuana. Individuals 18 years of age and older would face a civil fine of $25, similar to a parking ticket, and also it removes penalties for possession of paraphernalia in conjunction with small amounts of marijuana, and basically says that they would have this new fine be assessed instead of the current thing, which would be a misdemeanor. So currently any possession of marijuana is a criminal offense, punishable by up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $1,000. It could still remain a criminal offense punishable by up to 60 days and a fine of up to $500. But typically the fine would be the $25 fine and be similar, again, like I said, to a parking ticket. So Washington, D.C., little notes here, has the highest arrest rate for marijuana possession, according to a report released in June by the American Civil Liberties Union. Let's see here. Looks like the ACLU had an analysis which concluded that enforcing marijuana possession laws, which make up nearly half of all drug offenses, cost the district more than $26.5 million per year. So hopefully they're saying that this would have an impact on their bottom line, really. Oh, interesting. So D.C., decriminalized. D.C. already has a medical marijuana provision as well, if you were not aware. So that's one of, not even the states, the District of Columbia. All right, next state, moving on to Alaska. Looks like they have an initiative to regulate marijuana like alcohol. So this would be for recreational purposes. And looks like they are going to have this on the ballot. The ballot measure is qualified and will potentially be voted on will be voted on August 19th. This would regulate and allow marijuana for adults 21 years of age and older. And again, it'd be regulated just like alcohol in the state. So kind of interesting there. Very cool. A poll conducted earlier this month found that 55% of Alaskan voters think it's time to make marijuana legal and regulate it like alcohol. So we'll see how it goes. Might be the 3rd state in the nation. Who knows? But voters are going to get to decide. So it's pretty cool. Alaska. So man, you can go mine gold. You can live like a prairie man, and you'll be able to smoke weed.
Besides, the feds will be less likely to go up there because it's not like a nice warm spot where they can enjoy themselves. It gets really cold real quick, and most of those federal
feds only go where it's warm.
Well, they're paying race jerks, so I mean, so they won't be able to kick the door down of a guy who's smoking a joint, beat them up, take their house and stuff from them. They're thugs. I mean, I'm going to call them out on. They're thugs. There's nothing honorable, or I don't find them in esteem or anything else, and that's what they want. That's part of the thing appeal for these people to go into become law enforcement officers, in my opinion. I mean, there's a psychology that I don't want to understand, but I have to. But I mean, it's just, if you're up in Alaska, it's less likely that they want to harass you because they actually might have to work hard and actually get cold and suffer some privation going up there,
I don't know if they get to choose where they get to go work at.
Oh yeah, well, when they get older, they do. When they're there after service, I actually had family members who were related to were married into U.S. Marshal Service.
Okay.
And so they get to pick their assignments as they get older, more likely.
Okay.
They could be more choosy about it. So yeah.
Yeah. So consequently there's a lot of feds in Hawaii, is what you're saying.
Oh, but Arizona or Florida, yeah. I mean, you can have. I mean, let's face it.
They're border states.
They're nothing more than creatures of comfort. I mean, they want to live up like fat cat. What do they do that helps the rest of us? They harass us. They spy for the ruling class. They harass us, seizing every opportunity they can to deny us of our liberty and our property in their lives if we put up a fight about it.
Keep talking like that, John. You're gonna have them knocking on our door.
No,
okay?
They already knocked on my door before. I mean, they're a bunch of panty waste. I mean, they're a bunch of jerks. They're a bunch of thugs. They're not doing it for noble reasons. They're just doing it for a paycheck and esteem. So I don't see why I'm supposed to have any kind of appreciation for them.
Yeah, well,
I know this is my opinion and not Jeremy's, but I mean, they're nothing more. They're nothing more than thugs. I mean, the Secret Service are nothing more than thugs. The FBI, they're nothing more than thugs. When's the last time the FBI actually did a high-profile case and brought it to a conclusion and brought the killer to justice? How often do you hear about that?
That's a good point. I haven't heard about that in a while.
Their solving rate is about 37% the last time I read about it.
Wow.
I mean, you get a better chance of flipping a damn coin. And look at the resources available to them.
They seem to be pretty good at catching bank robbers, though.
Well, yeah, because let's face it, it's about money and about the prestige. It goes back. It feeds my theory about them.
All right, maybe you're right, John. All right, next state we're going to talk about is Oregon. They have some blowback there on medical marijuana. It seems like last week the Senate unanimously approved legislation to allow local governments to enact reasonable restrictions on medical marijuana dispensaries. It would allow municipalities to develop rules about where, when, and how dispensaries can operate. Unfortunately, the bill was amended to allow municipalities to completely ban medical marijuana dispensaries. All right, let's talk a little bit about the bill that we have right back here in Michigan, which is the Provisioning Centers Act. If you read the language in this act here, very similar to what this bill in Oregon is, and it allows municipalities to develop their own rules for regulation, but it also has a clause in there that would allow municipalities to completely ban operations as well. So maybe the devil's in the details there. Let's see, back to Oregon. Their legislature passed a bill creating a regulated medical marijuana dispensary program last year, and the legislation required the state health authority to create thorough regulation dispensaries must adhere to. The regulations ensure the dispensaries are run responsibly, and basically they're saying there's no reason to deny patients the access to their medicine simply because of where they happen to live. So seems like having a little blowback there in Oregon. All right, let's see what else we got here. There's a Iowa decriminalization bill that was introduced. This obviously for decriminalization. And let's see, any other states? We talked about Kentucky. We're not going to bother talking about Texas because Texas is crazy. Yes, New Hampshire. Their House committee approved a bill to remove criminal penalties for marijuana possession. So looks like a similar decriminalization there. It's also the same thing. Let's see here. Pull this up. Civil fine of up to $100. So there we go. And interesting here. This is the first decrim bill I've ever seen that also included cultivation. It says here, make cultivation of up to 6 plants a Class A misdemeanor instead of a felony. So lowering the penalties on that as well. Again, that's in New Hampshire. So, man, maple syrup country's looking better and better. All right, see what else we got here. Got some information for you. All right, the Epilepsy Foundation of America, kind of a neat thing here. They're calling for an end to federal restrictions of medical marijuana. They believe that it has obvious benefits to the medication, and they think that it should be no longer restricted. So it's pretty cool, nice big old foundation like that coming out in support of medical marijuana. Let's see what else we got here. Medical marijuana ingredient may cure Alzheimer's. This is a study that was done here. Scientists have found that an ingredient in marijuana may restore the memory of mice with Alzheimer's disease back to normal levels. That CBD or cannabidiol possibly to have an impact on that. And see if I can get some more of the guts here. Come on. Some more CBD research, kind of cool. This was a team from the Neuroscience Research in Australia published the first evidence suggesting that CBD may reverse the memory impairments of Alzheimer's disease. So kind of cool. I have heard before that marijuana will help prohibit with the onset of Alzheimer's, that it can repair the neural connections that are going on there inside the brain. So, and this here is furthering that information, basically saying that it could possibly even cure the effects of Alzheimer's. So that's pretty positive information there. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, one more story for you. This is about research into medical marijuana in regards to PTSD. Now, if you are not aware, PTSD was turned down as a qualifying condition here in Michigan. It has been reviewed in other states. Just a few states have it listed as a qualifying condition. I think it's kind of an obvious no-brainer that it is certainly helpful for people with PTSD. But the MAPS, which is a certain organization, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, are trying to obtain a supply of cannabis for the first FDA-approved clinical trial of medical marijuana for, specifically, post-traumatic stress disorder. Basically, they are trying to get approval for the study, and unfortunately, they cannot get access to marijuana because it's controlled through NIDA, which is the National Institute on Drug Abuse. They're the only legal source of cannabis for researchers. So if you have a study that you want to conduct, you have to be able to get your marijuana specifically from NIDA. And the NIDA marijuana is grown at a university down in Oklahoma, I believe. Kind of interesting. Or Mississippi, maybe it is. I get the states kind of confused. But at any rate, if you want to do research, you've got to get your weed from them, from there. And currently, NIDA is refusing to supply the medical marijuana for this study. And so it's kind of a ring around the rosy there. But, they have approved the study. But NIDA is disagreed or unapproving their access. So they're kind of at a standstill. This has happened a number of times in regards to studies being approved, but NIDA refusing to give up the weed. And so the fight is continuing on. They're going to court over this. And MAPS is actually one of the organizations that's been involved in a number of these court cases. And they've continued to lose in the past years. Maybe they'll win this time. Who knows? But it says here, NIDA can take as long as they want. And unfortunately, right now, they're just refusing to give it up. But, hey, we need to have research done on this. And I think it's silly that the government would approve a study and then turn around and allow one of their own organizations to not supply the necessary means to conduct the study. It seems kind of silly. But at any rate, maybe NIDA is just trying to protect their own little monopoly there. Who knows? But that's what it is. And if you haven't had a chance before, do check out MAPS. They're kind of an interesting group. They do all types of research on all kinds of different forms of medication, alternative and whatnot. Very, very well put together group, and usually pretty well founded. A lot of their studies are done by universities and well qualified people, so it's pretty neat. All right. Let's see here. I got one more story for you before we wrap it up here. This is about marijuana and epilepsy. Talking here, let's see. Published in the Journal of Neural Transmission, study found that THC, the chemical in cannabis, may enhance the effectiveness of current anti-seizure drugs. This is working in combination with prescription medication. Kind of interesting. Researchers say the marijuana-like chemicals showed no negative side effects on mice whatsoever. What's more, they predict it could even reduce the side effects of epilepsy treatment since patients would require lower doses of the drugs. So used in combination with them, they were able to lower the dose and have the same effect, if not improved effect, on the mice infected with epilepsy. Or, I guess, dealing with epilepsy. Let's see here. The Dravet Syndrome Foundation, which is a U.S. nonprofit, advocated for more research in a statement released last Wednesday. Says, as we continue to learn more about patients' experiences with CBD, both successful and unsuccessful, we have become increasingly interested in promoting further research into the efficacy and safety of CBD treatment. So there you have it. But we have a number of patients in our organization at the club that do suffer from epilepsy, and they could personally attest and will tell you just how effective marijuana is in preventing their seizures and other symptoms that are associated with the disease. It's certainly no question for them its effectiveness. I think anecdotal sometimes is really the best evidence. But all right, that's about it. We're running out of time here. That's your update from around the nation and the state on medical marijuana. Appreciate you guys joining me this week. John, thanks for being in the studios and making it happen, and your commentary as well. You federal person hater, you.
Well, I think it's warranted. I think that I think we've been too far too patient as a people with our government. I think it's time to actually start demanding they actually are held more accountable, and if they don't, then rip them out of office and maybe you could bring them up on charges.
I think you got a point there, John. We got to be more involved. We definitely have to care. And you guys can start that this week by making a phone call to your state representative and state senator and let them know how you feel about these bills we talked about today. Involvement is key. And if you don't do something, well, then you're just allowing evil to transpire, no doubt. Hey, you can help good transpire this Friday with us at the Soup Kitchen, so come on down if you can. Don't forget to go over there and try to guess how many M&Ms are in the pot. Heck, the M&Ms in the pot are worth $1 itself. They're probably worth quite a few dollars, actually. But thank you, Greg, for making that happen. Thank you, Matt, for coming down and cooking up some fish on Friday. I'm looking forward to the tastiness that you will be providing, you master chef. Guys, thanks for being with me this week. I appreciate it. Try to stay warm. No warm-up in sight yet. All right, coming to you from Flint. Thanks. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club Show.